testimony, the statement or declaration of a witness, evidence in support of a fact or statement, proof, an open declaration or profession. You're about to hear a testimony, a true, honest testimony from a fellow struggler who has found life change in the power of Jesus Christ through Celebrate Recovery. Are you ready to hear it?
My name is Kyle Stone, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. God has rescued me from addiction, anger, grief, and mental health issues. Hi. I'm just another broken man pieced together, standing here today by the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ. I come from two broken parents who are both recovering addicts. They met in the program in downtown St. Louis, both broke from their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I grew up in a very poor home. My parents did the best they could, the best way they knew how, but they really weren't there for us. They both had a lot of unresolved trauma they couldn't free themselves from, and they really weren't equipped to be able to give their all to being parents. I definitely didn't make it easy on them, though. From the time I was a baby, I was extremely angry. I don't know why, that's just how I was my whole life. But I knew that I always looked up to the wrong things. My parents would take me to meetings with them sometimes, and I would hear all these war stories about people and their addictions and all this stuff they did, and unfortunately, I looked up to that. Their stories sound fun to me. I truly believe now the main problem was I didn't have God in our home. My grandfather was a pastor and an alcoholic who was abusive to my father. My parents both believed a lot of different things, but when it came to religion, they kept to themselves. They spent most of their time alone just with themselves and were extremely codependent, but they didn't really share or teach us most anything. They mostly kept to themselves. I've been told that I've had mental health issues since I was a baby. The first time I was hospitalized in a mental institution was at 2.5 years old. I used to crawl inside my brother's crib and bite him until he bled, along with a series of way crazy behaviors any baby shouldn't do. My earliest years were spent in and out of hospitals, group homes, you name it. We were with anyone that would take me or my brother in. We moved around constantly, and we got to a point where my parents couldn't take it anymore. They said, if you think you know everything, go out and do it. So I moved out on the streets around 13 years old. I tried to make the best of my life as a kid who thought he knew it all. I bet you figured out that worked out great for me, right? No, it did not. I went through some really tough times, pretty much the rest of my entire life. So I moved down on the streets and enrolled myself in a school of hard knocks, fell in with the wrong crowd, and learned all the wrong ways to survive on my own. I got into trouble everywhere I went with everyone I met. I tried everything to fill this emptiness inside of me. No matter what I did or tried, the hole just grew deeper and darker. I had multiple failed relationships and 2 children that I tried to be a part of their lives but were taken from me in my early 20s. That really spiraled me a lot deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. I continued that cycle until I met Jennifer, my ex-wife. I met her through friends, and I did community service there. She worked at the Salvation Army, and we were just friends at first for years before it came more. I really thought that trying to get with someone like that would help change me. But little did I know my problems would become her problems, and as a result, we both became addicted to heroin. We tried to outrun our shame and bad choices by moving across the country with her son, Robert. He was a good boy, and he looked up to me. I claimed him as my own. Of course, there's no getting away from my past and my problems. The only thing it did was make it worse and make our already toxic lives worse. We became abusive to each other. She became pregnant with my child, and she decided she would go live with her brother, who was down in town, and talked her into leaving me. I tried to beg her not to leave me. In the end, the only thing it did was land me up in jail, and she went to Texas, had an abortion of our child, then came back down to visit me to get drugs while she was with me and left Robert at home with her brother. I was in drug treatment, getting ready to start mental health drug court, and she was on her way back to Texas after seeing me when Robert had an asthma attack. She yelled at him and told him to take his steroid, his Bronco steroid, but he didn't have it. And after she yelled at him, She got there and he was dead. And I took that really hard. I just really spiraled out of control. I ended up in the penitentiary for the first time. And while I was in prison, I started searching for why. Why is my life like this? Is there more to life than what I have seen or experienced? Is there a God? If so, does he care about me? I was so broken and lost, not understanding why Robert, this little innocent boy, would have to die. And why I would be there. Why was I there this time? I just knew God would help me again. I was reading the Bible all the time, trying to way to fix all of this, and I really thought I found it. I found the answer. I remember writing to the judge, surely this would help me. It was during this time I encountered the first step of recovery. We admitted we were powerless over addictions and compulsive behaviors, and that our lives had become unmanageable. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is in my simple nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18. Although I used that the wrong way. And I told him, Romans 7:17 through 20 to justify my actions, of why my actions were not my fault, because I couldn't control my sins. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is a sin living in me, for I know that good itself does not dwell in me. That is in my sinful nature. For I have a desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good that I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. Now if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin living in me that does that. Using this passage, I wrote to that judge, and you guess it, he completely understood and forgave me, right? No. He slammed the book at me and sent me straight to prison. And that honestly was one of the beginning, was one of the best things that happened to me. It didn't take effect until a couple of, other prison sentences and a whole lot more tearing my life apart. I spent a lot of that time in prison trying to figure out that why question and growing stronger along the way, learning to build a relationship through God throughout it. I began attending Celebrate Recovery in prison, and it was the first time I ever felt peace. Like it didn't make any sense. It defies all understanding. And but I would relapse many times on my road to recovery. I remember the last prison sentence, I was only supposed to do a 120-day treatment. I ended up turning a 5-year sentence, and I ended up doing 120 days and turning in a 5-year sentence. I ended up hurting somebody very badly in a penitentiary over nothing. I ended up being shipped to Potosi. This is the penitentiary where they house death row inmates. And boy, was that a serious system shock. I had cellmates that had done the most indescribable, horrible things to get to where they were. I remember one that sticks out to me in my mind. He told me he'd eaten his own father just to find out if he was real. I don't know if you guys can imagine what that's like, but it's very uncomfortable. I saw what it looked like to have people living the rest of their lives there. They were wanting to die. They were waiting to die there one way or another. Imagine having the scariest people and the most vicious criminals around you on lockdown 22 and a half hours a day. I really had no one outside that cared for me or nothing to live for. It scared the heck out of me. I was terrified about getting out and screwing up and ending back in prison, living the rest of my life that way, living like a plant just growing. And that's not living at all, I promise you that. To exist and have no hope, I could see no future, no purpose. This was the worst existence. The way to be in prison took a toll on my mind and my body. And after years of extreme drug abuse, my mind snapped. I mean, I was seriously cuckoo. People here can testify I was a mess. They said I was bipolar since I was a child, and my life was a wreck. I had severe mental health issues, and when they tried to say that I was schizo at this moment in life, they would be right to guess that, because I would hallucinate vividly. I was not living in the same world as anyone else, I promise you that. And that's terrifying. And when I was finally released, the guards drove me home themselves because my parents couldn't pick me up. And people usually don't go home from there. So when I got out, I tried so hard to make sure I never had to go back again. I did everything within my power to try to keep my broken, shattered mind in some semblance of peace. I tried to do everything right. I was scared to litter. I wasn't ever going back to drugs or anyone I knew that could make me go back. I wasn't going to break the law. I was scared to even break a stick. I never had a moment of peace inside my own head or anywhere else. When I got out, life was rocky to say the least. My family life was terrible, and this is the first time I've been allowed to stay with my parents in my whole life. And my brother did everything he could do to make sure I wouldn't stay. I couldn't take all the stress in my home or in my head or anywhere. I needed help. And luckily enough, I ended up making the best decision I ever made, which is walking through this church, the River at Eureka. At the time, it was Eureka United Methodist, but I was with my dad, and I met Pastor Tim Schulte. I still don't have a clue what he saw me that first day, but I'm grateful because I wouldn't be here right now if he didn't see something. I'm proud to say now that he's my sponsor. He's been my great friend, has treated me like a father all these years since 2017. I thank God that he put that I thank God put me in his life. He saw something in me that no one else did, and he gave me a chance. I served all summer long volunteering in this church, helping with organizing the basement for the new food pantry. It gave me a sense of purpose. It also gave me a quiet place where I could listen to my music and do something with my hands in order to keep some semblance of sanity. I started a discipleship bond with Pastor Tim. He truly believed in me. He gave me a job. I used to work here as a janitor, and this also allowed me to train to be a sound technician for our amazing praise team under Mike Butler. Mike Butler was the only man who never truly fully gave up on me, no matter how far I went the wrong direction. They are both some of my very best friends and spiritual guides. They both loved me and tried very hard to teach me and train me in my life, but I screwed it all up tremendously. I'm not gonna lie. At that time, I definitely had a relationship with the wrong woman and ended up getting in contact with all the wrong people from my past and falling really far backwards, getting back on drugs and screwing my life up. Way worse than I ever had before. 1 Corinthians 15:33 is so true. Do not let anyone deceive you. Remember this, if you become a friend of bad people, you will also live in a bad way. And there was a series of events that happened to me that led me to a spiral back out of control, relapse. Now I'm back to step one. My life has become unmanageable again. There was a series of events that happened after that led me spiral up. I really tore my life apart even more. I don't even want to go into all the pain, but I can tell you there's a moment when you realize now you can't do this anymore, and the only thing that matters is changing. And it took quite a lot for me to get to that point. I would say definitely more than most. I almost died in a house fire. I found out my mother had brain cancer at the same time we found out we lost our home. I had to watch her suffer for the next year until I lost my mom, my dad, and my brother back to back in 2020, along with my newborn son to DFS. I watched my mom suffer for a year straight with cancer. I watched her waste away and die right before my eyes. Shortly after her death, my brother, and I were in a car accident in Benton, and I accidentally killed my father. And I can't even tell you Give me a second, please. I can't even tell you what that feels like to be driving a car and it caused the death of your own father. And it's still not easy today knowing that I took my own father's life. Then to top it off after that, my brother Dustin got killed on a motorcycle by a reckless driver who was screwed up on fentanyl. Then on my way home from picking up my newborn son, I lost him due to my own stupidity, thinking I could just see people I knew I shouldn't one more time. That's the definition of insanity, right? I kept relapsing back to step one. I knew what I needed to do before my son was born. I began to distance myself from the people I knew I shouldn't be around. And I definitely knew better. I had just gotten away from them all. I had a whole plan to stay in this homeless shelter in St. Clair with my son until I got on my feet. Of course, that didn't go as I'd hoped. I ended up handcuffed after arguing with my ex. I shouldn't have even gone there. But I asked the police to please go get my son. I didn't feel safe with him there. They took him, and DFS didn't want to give him back. They said I had no rights to him, and that something was wrong on the signature of the affidavit from the hospital, and I couldn't have my son. That had proved paternity. At this point, I also lost my truck and my dog. That was everything I had left, and I lost everything. I felt so utterly hopeless. Once again, I went deeper in the wrong direction. I tried to reach out and get help from so-called friends, They only wanted to hurt me or use me. And I completely messed my life up more. I ended up literally alone and completely stuck at a tent right on the same street across from where the accident happened to my father. Having to look at that every day. And I still wasn't done. I hadn't hit rock bottom yet. After that, I had to dig deeper in the hole. I tried to bury myself this time, no. Life wasn't worth living, and I tried to take my own life. I downed a whole bunch of my own prescription pill bottle trazodone. Taking my life seemed to be the only way out of this train wreck that my life had become. God didn't let me die. I don't know. I should have, definitely should have taken, that, but because I definitely should have died because I took a whole mouthful of my prescription trazodone and swallowed them. I tried hard to puke them up, but I can only get a few out of me. And that's when I was really scared. I thought I was about to die, and I realized I didn't really want to die. When you think you're really dying, you don't want to. I mean, I didn't. And that's when I realized I had to escape. I told everybody around me, and they didn't care. Called people that I thought loved me, they didn't care. And I just, give me a second, please. I prayed so hard when I thought I was going to die that I didn't want to die, and I wanted to live, that there's no way I could die yet. I never even actually got to even start living my whole life yet. I cried out to God, please don't let my life end this way. I wanted to live for my son, Michael Amon Stone. He was worth living for, and I couldn't do it on my own. I had to fully surrender, and not just what I wanted or how I wanted it. That's not surrender. I had to change everything and everyone. So I ended up walking away in the middle of the night and kept walking miles and miles and miles. Walked away from everything I owned. I refused to talk to anyone I had known in order to try to save myself. I had to lose it all to give my life completely over to the will of my Creator because I would not do it on my own. I was walking in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, and a police car pulled up beside me. They could tell I was out of my mind. I was fighting for my life. And COVID had just happened. And they didn't want to take me to jail. They asked me if I could call a family member or else they'd have to take me. Luckily, my cousin, my best friend Sarah, answered the phone. And she's not a believer, but she's a great person, and she's been my best friend my whole life. She ended up having nightmares the whole time after this happened because she was afraid for me, but she couldn't take me back to her house because of the condition I was in. I was a wreck. She told me something I needed to hear in that car ride so desperately, though. She said to me, Kyle, I've never told anyone else this in my life, but you need Jesus. And I did. She said, please go back to God. Like when you first got out and you were working for that church, that was the best I've ever seen you do in your entire life. And I don't want to lose you. What should have been the end of my life actually led to steps 2 and 3. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. For it is God who works in you to will and act accordingly to his good purpose. Philippians 2:13. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over the care of God. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Romans 12:1. She said, I needed you to give your life back to Jesus, and that's what I did. I ended up walking around Eureka. I knew I couldn't go back to the place where I walked away from because I found out from Mike Butler that everything was gone. He said, Kyle, there was a flood and everything you own is gone. I knew I shouldn't go back already, but now I couldn't, even though I wanted to. I ended up turning myself into police on accident by the way of a Catholic priest here in town. He gave me advice and told me there was flood recovery help at the Eureka Police Department, and boy, were they right. I ended up turning, because at this moment in my life, I had been nothing but a street kid. I had never grown up or changed. I had a lifetime of bad choices that I had to take care of in the form of legal problems. And I was soon back in jail in Festus. When I was released from jail in Festus, I was able to get help from a church that told me there's a free bus that would take me to First Baptist Church in Arnold, who took me to another church and put me in a tent. I lived in that tent for a couple of days until I am getting my own hotel. At this time, I started to grow my relationship with Christ. I didn't listen to anything that wasn't Christian. I wouldn't watch TV. I would only listen to church sermons on my phone and listen to things and do things that fed my soul, man. I stayed in that hotel until, by the grace of God, I ended up meeting a woman that changed my whole life, man. My beautiful fiance, Jessica. I truly think she was an angel sent to help me save myself. I can't understand any other way than God putting her in her heart to see me the way God sees me. She had never been in trouble a day of her life. She was from the complete other side of the tracks, but she was equally lost and broken, and she was going through her own problems. She looked past all my tattoos and all my scars and looked at my heart. We became friends at first, and it grew into a lot more. We ended up pregnant. She helped me get my own house, and that's where I really ended up finding God's strength at that time. I lived in that house on my own and dedicated my life fully to God, letting him slowly lead me and heal me. I went from walking around homeless now to having my own home and buying a beat-up moped, driving it all over Arnold, all the way to South County, weekly to Celebrate Recovery at Twin Rivers Church, going to church weekly through Twin Rivers and Imperial, and serving and making lifelong friends through Celebrate Recovery. I found a place to serve at Encore Thrift Shop, Finding Grace Ministries, and the Harbor, where God strengthened me and removed my character defects. I'm moving through the steps now, and now I'm on step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10. We were preparing for the arrival of our new child, our beautiful little angel, Hazley Dawn Grace Stone. She was born on the same day as my father's death date. God always has little ways of showing me that this is his path he had planned all along. When I met Jessica, she helped me start fighting for my son. She's been there every day of his life with me, and now I'm grateful for the pain and the trials and tribulations I've been through, because without it, I wouldn't be the man I am today. Romans 5:3 reminds us, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation, and this is the hope. And this hope will not lead us to disappointment, for we know dearly God loves us because he has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with love. Today, I can look myself in the mirror and love who I am. I can love what God's done in my life. I couldn't say that before then. I didn't like me at all. I'd never grown up my entire life, and I did terrible things. I never really held a job. Everything I tried I failed at miserably. I lost my children, my family, and everything I valued in myself because I choose to live a life on my own terms. But like the book of Job, God has given me more than I ever started with. Although I lived my life more like the prodigal son, I'll tell you that. God welcomed me with open arms and gave me more now than I ever dreamed of, and it's just getting started. I know what it's like to start from nothing. It wasn't until I surrendered to Jesus that I found hope, peace, happiness, love, joy, and a purpose overflowing in my life. I am a living, walking testimony, and God has led me to turn my life around a full 180 degrees. Even Pastor Tim has told me before, I'm a walking miracle. And I don't take God's grace and mercy lightly, not a little bit. I will use my life and my voice to help others who are still lost and alone living in darkness. So as we speak now, I've dedicated my life to serve the Lord. I'm starting classes at the School of Leadership, which is a pathway to ministry, and through Twin Rivers Church, and I'm currently applying to become a peer support specialist. I've already started the exemption process through a state accrediting board and the Department of Mental Health. I want to help people with mental health and substance abuse issues. God has freed me to help set them free. How could I not give my life to Jesus? You have no idea how much the Holy Spirit has truly changed me inside and out. 2 Corinthians 3:18 is true, and I'm living proof. And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. I spent my whole life on the streets, never growing up or changing. I was living a lie, and I was in denial. I kept making excuses for my behavior, committing crimes, not caring who I hurt or what price it cost me or anyone else. I was manipulative, angry, violent, bitter, lowlife, and a thief who didn't care about anyone. And there's something about the fear of death, though. When you try to kill yourself and you really think you're going to die, that really puts things in perspective. And ironically enough, when I gave myself to God, that's what I had to do. I had to die to myself. I had to die to my old ways to actually live. I'm about ready to get married to a wonderful woman who has been my rock. And I have my kids. I have my 4 bonus babies that I would do anything for. We have a family of 6 children altogether. I'm able to encourage her to go to her nursing career, as well as I'm trying to become a pastor. As I just stated a minute ago, I'm starting a school of leadership through Twin Rivers Church, which is a 2-year-long process. I plan to become more of a light to help others to Christ. I finally have peace in a home that I love and a family that I couldn't live without. I see miracles happen in my life over and over again. I've had doctors tell me that I'm cured from sicknesses I've had most of my entire life. Only God can do that. I've had psychiatrists tell me I was misdiagnosed my whole life and testify on my behalf to DFS that I have no need for medication. Only God can do that. I've had judges move mountains for me and prosecuting attorneys move mountains for me and throw my cases completely out, run things retroactively, and do things for me I have never, ever seen done for anyone else. Only God can do that. God has truly done amazing things in my life, and God can do the same thing in yours. I'm lucky enough now to have my son back living with me on this day, as well as my daughter and my soon-to-be stepkids. My beautiful woman that I plan on making my wife by the end of this year, if she'll say yes. And I'm lucky enough to be going to careers that will fill my mind, body, and soul and spirit and make a difference in this world. Could I ever have asked for more than this? And this is just the beginning, I'm sure of it. Don't give up. God didn't give up on me, and he won't give up on any of you. Give your life to Jesus and go all in following Jesus. Go all in with Celebrate Recovery, and please keep coming back, because I promise you it works. It doesn't matter how many times you mess up. If you don't give up, he's never given up on you, and he won't. I promise you. I just thank you guys for letting me share my testimony from the bottom of my heart. For all you guys that have stood and walked through this whole path for me, you guys know, and I just thank you. God bless.